In this example, we're going to play around with putting text on a path. And one of my students last week said, how about putting text along a spiral? And we found a couple of issues, although we managed to do it after a bit of research on good old YouTube. So let's have a look and go through it. So Shift A, and I'm going to add some text, and I'll tab in, go to edit mode, and let's put in my name, tab out. I'm going to leave it at this sort of rotation, the angle, and I'll go to the data, the A, the green here, and let's go to geometry and extrude a little bit. There we go. And bevel just a little bit. Now be careful with bevel, because it can further on down the line it can really cause a problem. And also, if you watch what I've got here, I've got E, X and A, they're quite near, so when you have things that are too near and you sort of extrude them a lot or bevel them a lot, they can crash into each other further on down the line. So just watch out for something like that. Now at the moment, my origin point, which is white, is in the bottom left hand corner of everything, of the A here. So I'm going to change that. Let's go to alignments on the right hand side, paragraph alignment, horizontal center, vertical middle, and I'm going to do GY, move it up, give myself some space, Shift A, and a curve and a Bezier curve, and this is the standard sort of curve you get. I will click on the text, go to the spanner on the right, add modifier, and deform and curve. Curve object, click on the eyedropper, either click in the outliner or you can click over here, and bang. And now we've got a problem. So first off, I'm going to do S to scale it down, so that stops such a deformation, but it's still a bit weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Option or Alt G, which resets the origin point to the center. You see, I deliberately earlier moved it off center to show you this. So now it works fine. It's snapping to that, centered along the text. So I can always change that if I want. If I go to the A here, the green A, and scroll, let's see, where is it? Here we go, the alignment again. So if I choose the vertical to be the bottom baseline, see, now it's on top. And if I wanted to animate this, I could easily animate it, it's not a problem, but under spacing, so paragraph, spacing, and offset X. There you go, you see, so I can animate that. Notice there's a dot here, so I can do that, click on that, do a keyframe, and move it back again. So that's quite nice. Okay, but that's just a simple curve. If I click on the curve, tab in, click on right mouse click select, rather than left mouse click select, but whichever one you use, select the last anchor point. I do G, then I can do control click, etc. Control click, and I can click on those and, you know, move them around, etc. And let's see what happens when I click on the text and offset X, and there you go, it works fine. I'm holding the shift key down whilst dragging on the number so it doesn't jump so quickly. Shift and drag in Blender means do a smaller change than just clicking and dragging, which is much larger. Okay, so that works fine. Well, what about on a spiral? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll select those, Shift D, X, just move it to one side in case I want it again. Click on the text here, spanner, get rid of that, and get rid of that. And now, watch out, it's moved the origin point. You see, it's moved the origin point. If I go back here, if I set the offset X to 0, there you go, I'm fine. And I will do GY again, although we know that's going to cause a problem, but let's have a look and see what we get. My 3D cursor is in the center, so Shift A and curve. Now, I've probably got a lot more curve options than you have. So under the edit menu and preferences, there are two plugins that come as standard with Blender. Well, there's more than two, but there's two I'm after. If I type in extra here you go. We've got extra curves and extra mesh, extra objects basically. Just tick those. I'll close that down. Pardon me. And if I do Shift A, there's more mesh stuff. But if I go to curve and go down to curve spirals, but notice we've got profiles as well, helix, noise, and so on. But if I go to curve spirals and I'm going to do spheric, there we go. And I'll go to the options in the bottom left and I can choose anti-clockwise, clockwise, whichever I want. Increase the number of turns, and you can see now it's going around a sphere, and I'm sort of saying, oh, well, that's fine, I'm happy with that. I'm not worried about the number of steps, so I'll leave that alone. I'm in edit mode, so I'll do tab object, and we'll do the same thing. So I'll click on my text, go to the spanner, add modifier, deform, curve. But in this case, I will choose the curve for spiral, and bang, it's really distorted it. So let's do Alt or Option G. So that's better, as you can see. I will do S to scale it down. Notice the origin point is the center, which is what Alt G does, or Option G. But now you can see it's nicely on the text, on the line rather. And if I go to the data tab, the green A, then if I go down to offset X, and there we go, quite nice. And if I want to, I can do rotate X 90. See, so it now goes like that. But if I zoom in, I have a slight problem. You can see it's distorting a little bit. And this is an issue sometimes, and I've had it worse in earlier versions of Blender, but I'm on Blender 4.02 and it's better. But if I go to the text and let's say set the depth for the bevel to 0, so it's not the bevel, let's change the resolution. And can you see things are definitely changing? It's just how it functions. It might be the shape of the letters basically, so different fonts might be worse or better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that curve. Now notice the origin point is still centered, so I'm going to do Alt. Well, doing Alt or Option G makes no difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the origin point to the center of the text. So you can go to Object, Set Origin, Origin to Geometry. See, there you go. Or I've got it on my favorites, my quick favorites, Q. So Q key, Origin to Geometry. And you can do that for anything, by the way. You just go down to the command, right mouse click on it, and either add or remove or assign your own shortcut. I will now reset that, Alt or Option G, there we go. And I'm going to do Shift D and Y, leave a copy there, go back to this one. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to convert this. I'm going to convert this to geometry rather than keep it as text, and let's see what happens. Right, there's a couple of ways to convert this. I can do Control A and Visual Geometry to Mesh. See, it's no longer text and we've got the mesh symbol there, and that's fine, except when I tab in I get this. The faces are all over the place and it's a bit of a pain. So I'll tab out of that, undo, and undo again. In fact, I shouldn't have tabbed because it just undoes that, and undo again. There you go. So back to text. So another way of converting this to a mesh is add modifier, and what we're after is generate and remesh. Go to sharp, increase the octree depth to, I normally do it as 8. Do not remove disconnected because the letters are separate. There you go. And that looks quite nice, although we've got some sort of shading issues there. Let's try smooth shading here. See, nope, that doesn't do good, but we'll come back to that later. And what do we actually get? Well, if I now apply this, I get an error. For some reason, I'm not sure why, you're not allowed to apply the modifier, probably because it's still text. So I'm going to do Control A, Visual Geometry to Mesh, which will convert the text to a mesh and apply the modifier. See, it's all gone now. I will do W and Shade Auto Smooth. I use a right mouse click select, so W gives me this menu. If you do left mouse select, just right mouse click will give you the menu. So I'll do Shade Auto Smooth. See, there we go, quite nice. It's not perfect, but that'll do for what I want. And if I tab in now, you see I've got a much better mesh result. It's a bit dense, but that's fine for what we want. So let's tab out of that. And now let's add our deform curve. There you go. And the curve object will be the spiral, and bang, it does the same. And the deformation looks better. It's not perfect though. You can see where it curves around. You see the bend, but I can scale down. There you go. That's the lighting as well. But okay, no, that's fine. So scale it down a bit. Now comes another issue, is how do I animate it around? It's no longer text. I can't change the X and Y per se on the little data area. Well, that's easy. You just go to our object properties here and location X. And if I drag that along, there we go. And if you notice the origin point, there it is. It's still on the X axis, and that's what you're changing. Although now I'm going off before the spiral, but there you go. I go that way, and that works quite nice. So you can animate that. And in fact, let me rotate that RX90 because it is the X axis. And all you do is keyframe this. So if I bring up another window, set this to animation and timeline, I'm on 0, and I'm not fussed where the location is, so change that if you want, keyframe it, move along. In my case, I've got 300. Let's zoom out, change the number all the way up there, say, and keyframe that. Now, for some reason, it's lost its rotation, but let's see what happens when we play. And there we go. And it looks like, let's see what happens. Yes, it looks like for some reason it goes flat, which is obviously, I'm assuming, something to do with the spiral itself. That's an interesting effect. But there you go, and that's how you get text along a curve, although it's no longer text. So I've had the distortion worse before I've converted this to a mesh, but you can try both methods to see how it looks, and all you need is your spiral or whatever shape that you want to make. But that's how you do text along a spiral.